everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Smashing Skull Sessions. Before we kick off, a big shout out to Rising Sun Breweries, our main sponsor. If you're ever in Cork, lads, check out their craft beers. Fantastic stuff. Right, onto the show. This week, guys, I am delighted to welcome Pat, Rhys, and Beau from TREEBEARD, guys, all the way from Melbourne, Australia. Lads, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. Keen to talk to you.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
Our time wise, as it's late at night for you, so I know you're probably wrecked because you had a show last night. Am I right? You had a sold out show?
Yeah, we did. We were opening for a new band. Yeah, it was good. Yeah. We're opening for a new band called Bentham's Head, who are sort of like I don't know, like sludge metal kind of Mastodon kind of vibe, I suppose. Nice. So interesting pick for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, just through, collective effort and the promo and stuff, we managed to sell it out, which was great. And, we were opening, we still had a pretty good crowd and there was a good energy sort of throughout the night. Brilliant. Sort of a bit of merch.
It's our first show first show for the year. So it was nice to get back out on stage and actually just knock one off. It feels like we haven't played in ages. So it was, nice to get back out there and we had a great time.
And nothing bad happened.
Yeah, nothing bad happened.
Always a plus. Always a plus, Beau, that nothing goes wrong. Yeah. But I mean, geez, as you said, lads, it's a year since you played live, was it? Was that by choice or just the way things have fallen for you between work and everything else?
I suppose it was a couple of things. So we played, I think December last year was the last gig we had. And then after that, because we share a drummer and the other guitar player, Josh, we share those guys with another band called Khan. That Beau can probably speak to a bit more, I suppose.
But... Before joining this band, Josh and I were in Khan, and Khan have already had a lot of things rolling, and we had a tour at the start of the year, and that tour just took up a lot of weekends. And then also we've been working on the new stuff, and we've been sort of prioritizing that. So whenever Josh and I would get free weekends from our other band, we would be sort of hanging out and writing this new record. So so it was probably by choice.
Yeah. Very good. And come here, tell me the feedback from last night's show. Were you talking to guys afterwards? How do you think it went down? Because the lads play a sludgy style of music, as you said, and I was trying to sort of work out what I classify you as. I know you'd probably be categorized as maybe post-rock and post-metal, which is fine because it's very emotive music, it's atmospheric and everything. But I think the vocals, lads, in your sound gives you the sort of a shoegaze and indie vibe as well, So would I be right in saying that in the first place?
I think we all listen to like so many different genres. We're very broad. Like we all listen to like you said, like indie, shoegaze. Like we all listen to metal as well. I play in a doom metal band as well, so we're all kind of sharing all these different flavors.
Nice.
So I think it kind of comes out in the music that we take a bit of inspiration for lots of different sounds and that kind of thing. So probably why it's hard to pinpoint exactly what we are.
That's a good thing though, like, isn't it? It's good that you can be so varied, and not be so one-dimensional as a band. Like, I think it's fantastic. And like I said, the feedback then last night, lads, do people come up to you and say, I thoroughly enjoy that, lads, is very different, or how does it go?
Yeah, it was weird actually. We had some comments on social media in the lead up being like, I hope they play these two songs or three songs, which we were playing those songs, which was funny in its own right. Just having that sort of like specific fandom or interest, which is still very new for us, at least at a local level, was really cool. Because we played a pretty much entirely instrumental set as well. I feel like it was a good sort of entree to the main, for lack of a better term. So I think a lot of people appreciated.
I getcha.
Sort of set up the foundation for the night, and then also we were very different to the other bands playing as well. I think people dug it.
I got heaps of compliments and stuff, and I always think we're all three of us are definitely metalheads. We love metal, but we also love a lot of the more intricate ambient things. So I think if you can bridge that gap well, and when we lay into a riff, and we get right into it. Then when we calm down, it's nice. And I think people, regardless of what they come in with expectation, if we can do a good enough job of it, then they're really pumped. So, but I think we definitely got a few new fans out last night from one of the conversations I had.
Because your music from the album Nostalgia, which we'll talk about later on, I mean, that music, is made for a live environment. I think, there is some really, really crushing riffs in that, like, very, very metal orientated. But again, like I said, there's those shoegazy, dreamy moments as well, then, which make it such an interesting album. I suppose the band name as well, guys. I just want to ask you before I go any further. Treebeard, where did it come from?
Very creative source.
I can even give the specific moment that I thought of calling it that was like, obviously we've all grown up with Lord of the Rings as like a big part of our childhoods, the movies and books as well, video games, all sorts. So it's always been there in my head, so to speak. But I remember I was watching, it was around the time the second season of Stranger Things came out. And they're interviewing Sean Astin, who played Sam in Lord of the Rings, and they ask him, well, what's your favorite character from Lord of the Rings? And he says Treebeard. And he explains why, and he's like, he's like this manifestation of like nature fighting against industrialization and climate change and stuff like that. And I just thought, that's fucking brilliant. So I was sort of there were a couple other really shit names, like I think I was going to call it the Magdalena or Dear Magdalena, which became a song name on the album, but I was like, it's a shit band name. So I was very happy to come upon that. And unfortunately, there are a handful of other Treebeards throughout the world of different genres, which can get confusing for people.
Which I came across on Bandcamp. Yeah, I was a bit of homework. But what about yourself, Beau and Rhys? Were you happy with the name, or was it all Pat's idea? Like,
I felt weird about the name, mainly not because I thought it was a bad name, but because I related it to something else so strongly, being the character from Lord of the Rings. Like, I read Lord of the Rings when I was a kid. Those 3 movies I nearly watch every year. Like, it's a pretty strong thing. So it was weird for me to sort of relate it. But I've always got a theory about band names. I like lots of bands whose names I think are shit. But I love the band, and the band becomes the name, and that name becomes what you represent with the music, and you sort of, through that. And so while I love the name Treebeard, I thought, well, we could grow into it. We could make it our own, and then it'll be as cool as we make it. So I definitely didn't. I wasn't like, oh, that's a bad name. I didn't. I wasn't.
That's good.
I suppose you avoided going down the whole post-rock, post-metal route of maybe a name that is a sentence in itself. It's not even just a band name, that seems to be the trend. Like, so look, Treebeard is cool, lads. I want to talk about some new music as well. I know I'm assuming you're writing new music, and I've been keeping in touch on your Instagram pages and your Facebook pages. So if anyone else is out there, lads, always check it out. There's always a bit of inside information being dropped there. The album name, am I right in saying The Snowman is officially going to be the title?
Yeah, so it's already got the title Snowman, and it's been written mostly in its complete form since probably late 2020, but we decided to actually go back and record Nostalgia, which originally was just 2 like solo EPs that I had done prior to the band sort of becoming a band. Okay. So these songs have been around for a while, and in terms of the album itself, like, we've started recording proper. It took a little while to get around to it because we decided to really iron out some kinks on some of the songs and really tighten it up a little bit, because when I write typically, I go through really dry periods where I cannot write anything for ages. I cannot finish anything, and then something in my life might be happening, or just by circumstance I'm able to suddenly write like a whole album in about 2 weeks, which means sometimes you write stuff that sucks. So we had to sort of, change certain parts and, even cut certain songs out and that kind of thing. But I think the 9 or 10 songs we have now are like pretty good.
Well, I hope so. The drums were already recorded, so I hope they're finished.
We'll be the judge of that. Are you all involved? Are you all involved in the writing of this album? Whether it be lyrically, musically, is it a group thing, or?
So
Patrick, are you in
the first part? So it's pretty much Patrick's project in terms of the writing and the whole thing. But so as Pat said, with Nostalgia, that was 2 EPs that Pat recorded entirely by himself, and then me, Beau, and Josh came into the picture and pretty much re-recorded those same songs and put it out as Nostalgia. And yeah, I guess the process for the next album is, I guess Pat starts that writing process and kind of brings the songs to us. And we've been a lot more involved with kind of fleshing them out a bit more, and like almost all acting as like producers and being like, does this part work? Can we try something else? And it's been nice to refine stuff a lot more with this second one. I think Nostalgia was awesome, and Pat did an incredible job writing the songs, but you know, musicians, like, we're always perfectionists. We always go, you know, if we put a bit more energy into this and explore this, and you know, I think we've definitely had that with this this record. So we've all been a bit more collaborative, which I think has helped the band quite a bit.
I think there's always a stage like where you have to accept that, right, we're done, because like you mentioned, Rhys, you can be perfectionists like musicians. You want it right, you want to get it bang on, and you know, are you ever happy? It's sort of this idea you get sometimes, but you have to at some stage say, fuck it, look, this is good enough. Are you happy with what you have at the moment? So with the Snowman,
Oh, very, very. We really, I think all the guys in the band have been friends for longer than we've been in the band together. And we've all been in other bands we've all played in other acts and written and recorded lots. And I think the four of us together are quite mature and can get together and go like, you know, I could come with a drum fill and go, what about this? And they can say to me, nah, you could do better than that. Or like, nah, that's a bit too much. Or, you know, sometimes like, don't do a drum fill. Like, don't do it. And I think all four of us are good enough friends and mature enough to go like, oh, well, that's a good call. Like, and so we really like work with each other on each other's parts. So, you know, I'd come with my drum parts, but these guys would be judging it. And I appreciate that, because that's what you need to work as a group. And
absolutely,
I think that's what's made the writing of this album go from this, you know, this thing that Pat's written and created, this huge thing, and we've just all refined that with our own little inputs to something that we're all really happy with.
It's great for you to have that dimension between you, that friendship. Like it makes life a lot easier, doesn't it? Rather than three musicians just trying to get together and trying to trash out some ideas, it just doesn't work sometimes. Like, and you can hear it in the music eventually. Pat, the concept for the Snowman itself, I suppose the name could be self-explanatory, but can you break it down for me?
Yeah, sure. So it's a bit more sort of introspective, or I guess singular in concept than maybe Nostalgia was. So I guess for running the risk of sounding a bit lame, so obviously, you know, COVID was rough on most people. And myself, I wrote most of this album when I was living in an apartment on my own during lockdown. Very little to do. I was kind of losing my mind, going crazy, and, you know, maybe drinking at home a lot more than I probably should have been. And it's kind of just about going through isolation and sort of having to confront your own demons and, you know, journey into your sort of headspace and sort of confront things. And around the same time, I was also reading a lot of books and watching a lot of like documentaries and TV shows and stuff about kind of early explorations of places like Antarctica or the Arctic and things like that. And really, so I'm a bit of a history buff like that. And I just found stories from those sort of expeditions really interesting, and how wrong they could go sometimes. And I thought that it could kind of make for a good metaphor visually and in terms of the sound as well, hopefully. As like, you know, this album could be about journeying into the center of the Antarctic wasteland, or it could be about sort of journeying into your own mind and confronting whatever you find in there.
Brilliant. Great idea, great concept. I know it came out of a tough time, like, but again, something good came out of it, you know.
Yeah, totally.
Sorry, go ahead, Pat.
So I guess just with that, so it's a lot more sort of I guess emotionally cathartic or dynamic than Nostalgia maybe. So there's some significantly more heavier songs on there, and there's also some, I guess, lighter or more melodic songs as well. And
so you have bigger contrasts. So basically, here on this album, does more than you would have in Nostalgia.
Yeah, totally. I like to think Nostalgia had similar sort of contrasting songs as well, which was intentional. Like, you know, intentionally jarring, I guess. because we wanted to sort of showcase that. But this album probably more so, and definitely in general more heavy and more sort of intense. I guess
that's good to hear, lads, isn't it? Heavy doesn't never too much heavy. That's for sure, lads. I'm just always curious when I'm talking to bands and they're writing albums. What album would it? What influences them when they're writing? You know, because do you shut away from all their music when you're trying to put music together, or do you allow yourselves be influenced by what you're listening to?
I'm happy to sort of let things be an influence, or like to not sort of shut things out. So I guess for this album, I'd say Departure Songs by We Lost the Sea is a big example for me of like an approach that I wanted to go with, where it has this overarching concept and it goes through emotional highs and lows. And like I want to, not saying that I could hope to, but I would like to elicit a similar sort of emotional response out of people the way that album did for me when the first time I heard it, which was way back in like 2015 or whenever it came out. Like influences, I'm happy to have them, and I have to be careful so that I don't just completely rip people off. Sometimes
especially fellow Australians, you can't do that to your own. Like,
so I have to like listen back and be like, does this sound like this song? And then I'll go listen to that song. I'm like, I'm not sure. And then I might show like these guys or my partner or something, and they'll be like, I don't hear any similarity. I'm like, great, cool, I'm keeping it then.
But what about yourself, drum wise? Like, when you're creating your drum patterns and stuff. Do you find yourself influenced by others?
I definitely do. I try to learn lots. I love my progressive rock and metal. So when I'm at home, when I'm playing Tool and Mastodon and Gojira and Meshuggah and bands like that, which really don't translate very well to what I do with TREEBEARD, but I like to push myself sort of technically with those sort of bands, and I think all of those bands have drummers with particular grooves and
they do actually
styles, and I might try and like nick a way that a drummer might do a fill or something, or the way that they would groove with that, or little intricacies that they would do and bring them in. But definitely before I get really close to recording, more so than writing, I do try to like hone in on something. Normally stuff where the drummers don't overplay. So I don't, I don't have Brad Taylor from Mastodon in my head going, I should do a fill every 4 bars.
So I think every single space.
I think because I've recorded drums on this album already. I think the week before I did that, I listened to a lot of Cult of Luna. I think that was where I got my headspace like that, like amazing band. And that drummer just like gets into some grooves and he just locks in. And it's all servicing the wider picture. And I think that's where I sort of go before recording, so that I can go. I don't need to do that. I don't need to be all up here all the time. I can pick my moments.
With yourself, Rhys, bass players, do they influence you when you're creating your own material, when you're writing your own stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I listen like these guys to a very like eclectic bunch of music. I've been listening to a lot of Aphex Twin lately. Been listening to a lot of Cannibal Corpse, a lot of black metal. Like, listen to everything. But I think more so my role in this band is very groove orientated and trying to shape, more working with Beau, like shaping what we do around the songs. I think that's such like an important part of music you listen to. Like if it's got a real locked in groove, everything just sounds so much better. So I'd say it's more about what I don't do. The last thing I want to do is sort of overplay and overstep in the songs, and it's got to really be supportive to make it sound tight and make it sound really good. So I think it's more groove focused what I do. That's the lens that we try to have. That stuff.
That all sort of corresponds, Pat, really to what you mentioned there earlier with Departure Songs, that album. Nothing is overplayed in that album yet. When they all have their moments, it's something really special. Like when they do take front and center, whether it be the bass guitar, whether it's the drums, there is a balance there, and I'm hoping to God you make it on the Snowman, because you've built it up here now for me, having heard it been related in any way at all to Departure Songs. It sounds fantastic. Before we go any further, because I'm just going to play a bit of music for anyone who is not too familiar with this band. This is an album from 2021, lads, I think, isn't it? Nostalgia came out in 21. I could have picked any track really from it. I decided on Pollen. Have a listen, guys, see what you think. So there you have it, guys. That's Pollen from the album Nostalgia, released back in 21. But fuck it, go to the Bandcamp page, lads, and download it because it is absolutely incredible. This is the perfect opportunity to talk about the album. Again, as it is a debut album, isn't it? I mean, as debuts go, it is pretty well polished and very, very professional and sounds heavy. It sounds melodic. The vocals, as I mentioned earlier, this shoegazy sort of vibe that rolls through it. Can't get enough of it, lads. Was there influences when you wrote that album? Especially for you, Pat, obviously, I suppose.
Yeah, so I guess I would have written it in a long time ago now. So it would have been like late 2017, early 2018. And as I was saying a bit earlier, it originally took the form as two sort of side project EPs that I did.
Yeah.
Myself recording all the instruments and working with a friend of mine who was a producer called David Chabert. He's a Colombian guy and has since moved back to Colombia.
Okay.
But in terms of the writing influences, I guess a lot more of the sort of earlier post-rock bands that I was into. So it wasn't too long after I really delved into the genre that I started writing for the album. So I guess Mono would have been the first band that really sort of turned me on to the genre. And from there, I got into some of the other older bands like Mogwai, and then some of the newer bands like Russian Circles and things like that. And I remember seeing Mono with We Lost the Sea in 2015, maybe. And specifically that night, I was like, I want to make a band like this. I want to do music like this. So even back then, Departure Songs was a huge influence, I would say.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then, yes, the first two Mogwai albums as well, just for their, I guess, the simplicity of them. Like they're not super dynamic sort of
over technical at all.
Albums, I guess. Yeah, or very technical. They're just very like, they find a really nice chord progression or an arpeggio or whatever, and they just sit on it and they build on it and sort of see where it takes them. So certainly on the softer songs, stuff like Young Team by Mogwai and yeah, like Hymn to Immortal Wind by Mono and things like that. Heavier songs, obviously Russian Circles.
Yeah,
It's an influence. I feel like 8 by 0 is a direct ripoff of Deficit.
No.
It's not a rip-off, it's a tribute.
Tribute.
Nicely put, Bo. Nicely put. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then
even the track Pollen that I just played there, Pat. The intro to that brings me right into sort of the God as an astronaut sort of sphere, you know, that they play some lovely delicate chords, you know, on the guitar, and even Hiroshima then would be maybe the sort of that vocal side. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I'm not sure. But yeah, again, post influences like Rhys and Beau then, lads, I know you're from the heavier spectrum then of the music. Do you still enjoy recording this? Do you ever get that fucking urge to just, can I just throw one more fucking heavy riff in there?
A big reason why I joined TREEBEARD was because I heard Pat's solo EPs that he'd done every instrument on.
Yeah.
And I was a massive fan of Russian Circles and God as an Astronaut. I love those two bands. I wasn't a real heavy post-rock listener, but those two bands I really, really loved. And probably in particular God as an Astronaut, I really like that band.
Yeah.
And I was already playing in my other project, which is more of a heavy psych sort of thing. And I was like, post-rock would probably be something I would enjoy doing. And so then, you know, hearing what Pat had done, I was like, I just sent him a message and said, hey, dude, if you want a live drummer, let me know. I'm keen to jump on.
Oh, brilliant.
And I'm a very dynamic man. Like, I like dynamic. So if there's these nice quiet moments, you know, we played our gig last night at the start of Terror. I just sit there for 3 minutes, and now and then I do a little tinkle on the right cymbal. But I sit there and in my head I go like, I think that's the best part of the song. I love that moment. And then when the drums can do what they need to do, it's another level, you know. Whereas if I'm doing it all the time, you lose that impact. I'm more of a fan. Like I think one of the songs on the new album, like Pat had his demo with all these guitars, and I said to him, I was like, do we need drums? Can we just like not drums? Like, will me playing ruin this? Should we do it? And we ended up doing it, and it worked really well. But you know, I'm all for those quiet moments. I think the quiet moments make the big moments. That's they
exactly. Rhys, you'd be the same mindset, so I'm guessing, yeah.
Totally. It's, you know, I think you can only play Slayer riffs for so long before it's boring, which I love, but I love the dynamics of the journey of songs and the space, and, you know, almost like, you know, for me, like Pink Floyd is a massive influence, like that sort of older school, like ambient stuff, and having songs sort of take you on a journey, and being able to push and pull and be quiet and be loud is sort of like, I love all that stuff. So and as well, as soon as I found out Beau and Josh were going to play in the band, we're all mates. I used to live with Beau and Josh, and Pat actually, in a separate house. But one of those things where as soon as I knew those guys were going to be in the band, I was like, yeah, sign me up. So,
great.
So it would be good straight away, which always helps.
So the album cover then, Pat, on Nostalgia. Can you tell me a little bit about that as well? I love the artwork, actually. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. That was done by a friend of ours who's a graphic designer called Serena Deer.
Okay.
Deer?
Yeah, so Studio Roo is
Studio
Roo.
Okay, nice. It's the design label. Yeah. And I suppose the initial pitch, I think I'd seen it was a photo on the National Geographic like Instagram of like very not remarkable thing, but I think it was like a yak or a buffalo just standing in a field, and I was like, that's cool, but what if instead of like a yak or whatever, it was something that shouldn't be there, like a jellyfish or a shark or a whale, kind of influenced by maybe the Gojira album from Mars the Series, where it has like the whales in space, or it's that kind of jarring sort of imagery was really cool. So that was kind of the initial pitch, and then Serena went away, and it was really interesting what she ended up doing, where instead of like just sort of painting an album cover or drawing or photoshopping stuff, she created a physical jellyfish kind of prop out of I think it was like rubbish.
It was rubbish.
Yeah, like recycled rubbish and stuff.
And a colander.
And a what?
And a colander.
And a colander. And yeah, she sort of like created it. So it's a physical object that exists. I think it's still in a studio, isn't it? Yeah. And yeah, she sort of like photoshopped that into this other image of like a lone figure and kind of thing. And yeah, just added different assets to it to make it really cool. And I always thought it was, yeah, the first time I saw it, it was like really jarring, and I liked that. I was like, this isn't a normal album cover at all, but I really actually like that aspect to it because it looks, yeah, it's very like uncanny valley kind of vibe. Yeah.
Brilliant. I love it. I love it. Just going on, I suppose everything's sort of, it's a bit of a DIY project. So really, like, I mean, I'd be a big vinyl collector, you know, so obviously there was never a vinyl pressing of Nostalgia, but there was CDs. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, so there are CDs, and yeah, vinyls are definitely on the agenda in the future. We're just sort of waiting for the right time, I guess, in terms of interest, we think.
Okay.
And yeah.
That's my next question. Has there been interest from record labels, Richie? Have you been
yeah, so and not until recently were we really sure what we were going to do on that front, but probably by the time this interview goes out, we'll be signing with Birds Row up in Sydney.
Brilliant.
So you know, kind of at the forefront of the genre in Australia, I would say. So they've got, you know, all of the really, well, not all of them, but a lot of the really great bands. So bands like We've Lost the Sea, Solkiri, Mushroom Giant, who I can see their vinyl in the background. So yeah.
Fuck, you're in great company there, Pat. A fantastic label, lads. I'm delighted for you. I really am. That's great news.
No, thank you, man. Yeah, so certainly we're going to be doing a bit of work with them on a sort of soft release of Nostalgia because it's the 2-year anniversary, I think, in some point this week. So we're going to be working with him on sort of running a, like re-release promo campaign, try and conjure some interest, and depending on how that goes, maybe we'll do vinyls around then. If not, then maybe when we're pressing for the second album, so we can do them both together. But certainly in the future, they'll be happening.
That is brilliant. That's fucking great news. And again, Birds Row, like, I mean, you landed on your feet with that one, if you ask me. That's a great call. Absolutely great call. Yeah. I suppose next I want to ask you about just what stuff you're listening to, lads. What I know we spoke about influences while you were writing and while you were recording and stuff, but just in general, music-wise, I know, as I've said, the heavier element is there with yourself, Rhys and Beau, and probably yourself, Pat, too. What do you listen to currently? What are you listening to currently that you would mind dropping a few names if you want to?
Yeah, let me just check what I've been going for. In general,
that's what it's there for, Rhys.
Yeah. In general, definitely been listening to a lot of heavier stuff. So yeah, there's a band called Humanity's Last Breath from Sweden, I think, who are kind of like a genty, really heavy, also post-metal kind of vibe. They're really cool. I'm listening to a lot of old In Flames as well, because me and Beau saw them live at Knotfest here in Melbourne about 2 months ago, and they were probably my favorite band of the day, which I was not expecting.
Yeah, the Jester Race is just one fucking class album.
Yeah, totally.
That's if I hear In Flames, that's the only album I want to hear. It's just my favorite. It's incredible. Sorry, go ahead.
And I guess in terms of post-rock stuff, I've been listening to obviously the new Mushroom Giant album a fair bit.
Yeah, great album.
Because we played many gigs with them over the last couple of years, I'd heard the songs live a bunch, so I already kind of knew them before the album came out. Just having them in a like studio quality format has been really cool.
Yeah, it is. Great album.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Rhys? What about yourself, man?
Yeah, as I said, like very, very eclectic mix of stuff, but I've been listening to a lot of more electronic inspired heavy music lately. Like I've been absolutely smashing the latest Northlane album. Also Loathe, if you're familiar with them, they're sort of like a Deftones-y kind of vibe with those, almost like those post-rock electronic sort of moments woven in as well, which is really masterfully done. Listening to a lot of Bring the Horizon actually as well. A lot of their new stuff is just like emo revival, completely left of field. But when you talk about songwriting, like and production, just absolute geniuses, and sort of the forefront of all the trends that you see in heavy music, and everything that they've been putting out's been insane to listen to. What about you, Beau?
Yeah, I don't know. I get in moods, and I've been in a very heavy mood. I've like discovered and been listening to like Lorna Shore, which is like death metal, which I'd never thought I'd listen to death metal, but I really like it. And I don't know, maybe it's because the drummer in that band is ridiculous and I'll never be able to play that, but I don't listen to it thinking about the drums, and I actually listen to the music thinking about other things. But I've been there, like getting hardcore with bands like Stray from the Path. We went to Knotfest earlier the year in Australia, and I just had such a good day, like just listening to Parkway Drive and their old stuff, taking me back to high school, and like In Flames, like blew me away. I didn't think they had that many good songs, so I've listened to a lot more of them. Spirit Box, which is like a great band with an insane vocalist. But yeah, and then I'll just go to Cult of Luna, and I'll go back to Russian Circles. I'll go back to Not as an Astronaut. I like just listening to it all. And I think the best thing about Spotify is when any band that you like comes out with something new, then you can go straight onto that. So
I mean, we're in a different world altogether from back in the day when we were collecting CDs ourselves and fucking purchasing everything. There was no such thing as download. So the amount of music that's hitting us at the moment, through the likes of Spotify and stuff, is fucking amazing, like, isn't it? There's so many great bands out there. It's hard to keep in touch with it all, like, and stay on top of it. It's mad. Lads, the rest of this year, what's your plans? Have you any more live shows on the cards?
So we've got another show booked in late July with Bear the Mammoth, who are doing an album launch for their album Purple House.
Nice.
We played a couple of gigs with them before. They're lovely dudes, and have always been really supportive of our band. And it'd be really good to be doing that with them. Recording wise, I think we're resuming recording tomorrow even. So trying to get the album done sort of in the next couple of months, and then once it's all sort of mixed and mastered, release 1 or 2 singles before the year's out. And probably do a gig associated with that. In terms of the album release, we're hoping some point early next year, because Khan also have another tour booked of Europe and Australia later this year. So we're sort of like
relying on him to come back. So we're sort of splitting duties there. And that's sort of the year at this point, as far as I know. Just working with Birds Rope on the Nostalgia sort of re-release stuff, and it's sort of content creation. Great stuff.
So we had a little behind the scenes footage from Nostalgia that we're going to be releasing and trying to push through.
Nice.
Pretty good at we're very good at filming and recording everything we do. We're very bad at going through and editing.
I think that's everybody's problem. Everyone has fucking megabytes of stuff on their phones and on their fucking laptops. I never see the light of day. It's mad. It's crazy. It would be nice to see some live stuff. I know there's a couple of short clips of you on your Instagram page from your show on Sunday night, which I had a look at, and it sounded very impressive. Even the sound quality from those recordings, whoever was taking them, was really good. So, lads, I have 3 questions I threw your way last week. There are 3 session questions. So just for a bit of fun, I'd be interested to hear your answers to these. Right, first one, lads. What track would you like to do a cover version or your own interpretation of it? You can actually answer individually here if you want, lads, because I know you all.
Sure.
You got a great race answered that for us last night. Did I? What? I think the problem. You might not be able to hear this in our music, but we are all idiots. So when we see that question, and this includes Josh, who's not with us tonight, but I in my head, the first thing I want to do is do something stupid with someone's song. Like I don't want to do it like, oh, this song's awesome, but we could do a really ambient version of it. My head goes like, what dumb thing could we do with it? And Rhys might not remember this last night, but the first song that came into his head was Saving Me by Nickelback.
Whoa. Interesting call, Did a lot of beer influence that call, I'd say, did it, Rhys?
I'd say you're probably right.
I think so,
Yeah, too hard to sing.
Yes.
I've always, Josh and I have always wanted to do a really like lo-fi, drawn-out cover of "Sober" by Tool.
Oh yeah.
I've always thought that could be something cool to explore. I think there's a lot of space in that song. That's always one that's stuck in my head. But it's not something we like do. But we're, like I said, we're more likely. This guy's more likely to try and play the worst version of "Can't Stop, He Can't" by the Chili Peppers in front of us.
I have a habit of just playing "Can't Stop," but with the notes of any of our original songs. So it's just this weird, tormented version. But and answering the question, we have looked into covers a little bit before. We've never really settled on the right one. I do have some demos lying around of like stuff I've done for I did the "Love Reign Over Me" by The Who, which I thought was sounding kind of cool. Going a bit classic there. Did one of "Hurt" by 9 Inch Nails, where I kind of turned it into a more sort of I don't know, more traditionally post-rock, I guess, and less sort of ambient like the original. And then I don't know, you were playing "Digital Bath" by Deftones on drums last night.
I always play "Digital Bath."
That's a cool song, but it's basically post-rock already, so how would we make it any different? It's like
that is my signature card.
Yeah.
So like
maybe want any of the songs, you're
literally telling me you could put your hand to anything, really, lads. If someone threw something your way, you'd have a stab at it, I think. Would I be right? Yeah, I think so, second question, lads. This might be a simple one, actually, because you mentioned Lord of the Rings earlier. What movie or series would you like to hear Treebeard music's played on? Yeah. Is it too easy an answer?
I mean, I was thinking something else. I can't remember what I was thinking before, but I think that's pretty good.
I would be played on Lord of the Rings. I would not want to mess. I would not want to mess with that music. That music in those movies is amazing, and he thought about every little bit. I don't know. We just work.
Interesting answer, actually, Beau. You're right. Yeah, maybe leave well enough alone.
But
something else.
I was thinking something specific literally yesterday, but I can't remember it now.
Well, if they made a good Halo series, that would be cool.
Okay.
But it would have to be good and not the one that exists.
Maybe like The Last of Us or something. That's a good. I feel like it could fit well there, and I thought the show was amazing, and I loved the games as well before. Maybe something like that could work.
Okay, brilliant. Rhys, any answers there on that one?
No, just full of dumb shit in my head, really. It's nothing to contribute. I'd say The Last of Us. We're all massive fans of that show.
Yeah.
Or like even Chernobyl, that'd be sick. Love Chernobyl. That would be cool. I think our music actually kind of, nostalgia is that whole like world being destroyed kind of, atmospheric vibe. So I think that would be quite cool.
That would fit nicely, actually. Yeah, good call, Rhys there. Yeah, good call. Lads, look, name a bucket list band that you would love to open for or support on a tour. Past or present, doesn't matter. I suppose it has to be fucking present if it's a bucket list. Yeah, but
Well, for us being in Australia, that list is quite large because most of the bands we like don't come very often.
Yeah.
But I think for Treebeard, I would love to open for Russian Circles.
Yeah.
Or God as an Astronaut. Or ideally, they both just come together and they do a tour with God as an Astronaut and Russian Circles all over Australia, and they just drag us along. That'd be ideal.
That would be nice. That would be nice.
That would be the ultimate, I think, for us.
Yeah, totally.
Have you something there?
It depends how realistic I'm being. how much it would make sense. Like Metallica or something would be massive, but that's not going to happen. So to be realistic, it would be something, similar, like maybe We Lost the Sea or Mono. Yeah.
Nice.
I'd love to play with, dreaming big, like a band that's heavy but has those moments that the fan base of those bands would like from us. So someone like Deftones or even like a Gojira or something would be like fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And I think they like a good fit. And I love those lineups where you've got different flavors kind of coming in. It's not just watching the same band 3 times. So those would be awesome.
Nice one. Yeah. Again, it's something very different. It's almost stadium rock you're nearly touching on with those bands. It's that big. Like, that must be some experience playing in front of fucking 40,000, 50,000 people. Yeah, just as we're touching on these subjects, is there any festivals in and around Melbourne that you associate with, or do you see any sort of? Have you been in contact with anybody with regards to playing at festivals?
Yeah, in some ways, I suppose we played. I guess in Melbourne, the prog scene's kind of shrunk a lot, especially after COVID. All the bands just sort of like stopped, and some people who were like pretty central to organizing gigs in that scene kind of either left or moved into state or wherever. So yeah, there used to be a thing called Progfest that used to get some pretty big acts down. They got like the Ocean Collective down. They got was it Monuments one year and Leprous and like some of the biggest sort of prog bands from overseas, and it brought local bands with them, which was really cool. I remember going to a few of those back in the day, but they haven't been a thing since 2019. I think.
They have spoken about coming back.
Yeah,
but it's not.
Yeah,
it's not been fully committed. There's rumors about it.
Yeah,
yeah. But I mean, I suppose in an ideal world, like, is there something that you're interested in? You know, doing a few festivals during the summer there, because you see bands touring festivals right across Europe. Is that something you'd like to do at some stage?
Yeah, obviously Dunk, and Portals and Actingen, you know, some of those bigger post adjacent sort of festivals, even like some of the more mainstream festivals, I'd be happy to play. We just like playing anyway.
Exactly. I just think you'd be so well suited to it. Like, I'd love to see you at one of those shows. I think your music deserves it, you know.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, lads, come here. Thanks for those answers. Interesting ones. We won't edit any of them out, I can assure you.
I hope that we can claim wanting to cover Nickelback and no one else touches that.
We're actually going to highlight that, but we're highlighting that at the start of the show, I think. Yeah. But lads, come here. So, Pat, Rhys, and Beau, lads, thank you so much for taking time out. I know you were busy boys because you were only gigging last night, so I really appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you down the line somewhere at a festival, or maybe, I don't know, please God, at some kind of a tour. Otherwise, can't wait to hear the new album, The Snowman, which comes out probably early next year, you reckon, Pat? So, yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
There will be new music this year at some point.
But there will be singles released, yeah.
There'll be at least one single this year.
Fantastic. So there you have it, guys. That is Treebeard from Melbourne, Australia. Post-rock, post-metal, call it whatever you want. Their music is absolutely incredible. Emotive, powerful, heavy. It ticks every box. That's it, really. See you all in a couple of weeks' time. Take care and check out these boys. Thanks. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cheers.